introduce my friend Rob Moss, who is the founder of SeizureTracker.com. And he is also a parent of a child who has a rare genetic condition. So he's going to talk about seizure tracking and what the benefits are.
Good morning, everyone. It's really exciting and an honor to be able to talk to everyone today. But most exciting is the idea that I'm out of pajama pants. I think it's been a year and a half. So today I'm going to talk to you mostly about using seizure diaries and the benefit of what they can have on clinical outcomes. So I'll talk a little bit about our personal story, how Seizure Tracker was developed, and then what the tools actually look like, and then a little bit about clinical usage. So this is my son, Evan. He has tuberous sclerosis complex. It's a rare genetic disorder that causes tumors to grow pretty much in every organ of your body. He was started having seizures at birth. And we were struggling really to control with the medications we had, increasing number of seizures. So this is what were provided as a seizure diary to communicate what his changing seizure activity looked like with his physicians. So this was in 2006, and you can see that we were just tallying how many seizures he had, and then trying to fill in spaces with medication information, then take this single sheet of paper into our doctor to make informed medication decisions. So this is what things look like in 2021. That was 2006. We built Seizure Tracker for ourselves to monitor our son's seizures and medications. We went out and found some graphing components and took it into our doctor, and he asked us to make it public. So Seizure Tracker now is the largest database of patient-reported seizure diaries in the world. So you can imagine how powerful that database is in understanding epilepsy. So right now we have over 32,000 global users, and the database continues to grow, and our user base continues to grow. So really, it was about empowering ourselves to play a more active role in the decision-making for our son. So we wanted to be able to record not only in notebooks and on sheets of paper, but on our mobile phone or online, and then be able to present that data to our doctor in a meaningful way. So I'll just run through a little bit about what Seizure Tracker does. This is kind of exciting for us. We just launched a new website, and you're actually could go to Seizure Tracker and see this now. It's been in beta testing for about 3 months, but it went public last week, and this is sort of the new unveiling of it. So it's based on this calendar navigation where you can go in, create an account, and then log seizure activity and medications and therapy information. So this is a seizure diary page. If you click on a date within the seizure diary, you can add in not only seizure activity, but other surrounding information that relate to that specific date. And we've added these new reviews to allow you to review the active therapies for specific dates. So you can add in medication, VNS, rescue medications, birth control, among other things, and then view that data within the portal fairly easily. This is, I'm hoping you guys can see this well enough, but it's the diary portion of the daily log itself includes a header section. So you can identify the seizure activity by seizure types, the time it happens, and the length the event lasts. Along with that, you can record VNS magnet swipes if you have a VNS, and then you can flag specific events to highlight them in future clinic visits. So collecting that data specifically in that way allows us to create data visualizations for you to communicate with your physicians to understand trending in the seizure activity itself. So this is a time of day chart. We launched this fairly early on into the website, and it allows you to see that when you record your seizure activity by time of day, when that trend is, and actually make medication dosing level decisions dependent on the time of day the seizures are happening. So we launched this chart into the Seizure Tracker system and immediately started getting emails from people saying they deployed these charts or they used them in their clinical communication with their doctors and actually became seizure-free just by adjusting medication timing and how they dosed that medication. And again, the seizure types, we have a seizure type chart that when you're making medication changes and you might see specific changes to seizure types, these charts allow you to see over an extended period of time how those changes look compared to what therapies you're changing. And then we had a real focus when we first built the site. We went out and we got as many paper diaries as we could and looked to find the data points that people were generally collecting for seizures and then standardize how that was collected in the diary system itself. So this is a simple checkbox form that mirrors a lot of the paper diaries that were in existence then. And then there's some customizations where you can add to each of the trigger section, description section, or post-event sections. Again, the daily logs tool. So we have a way to collect medication, blood levels, menstrual cycle information. If you're doing diet therapy, you can collect glucose and ketone levels, rescue medications. And then we have a tool called Daily Variables, which allows you to visualize specific data points on the charts that are very customizable. So you can attach a text string to a daily variable and then present it back. We have a strong women with epilepsy focus here. So we added in a few years ago a birth control tool, which allows you to visualize also the idea of hormonal therapies within epilepsy management, and then understand also the idea of menstrual cycles and how they play into seizure cycling as well. All of those data points that you enter into Seizure Tracker then can be visualized through the charts that are provided and the reporting systems that exist on the website. So when we set out to do this, our main goal was to improve data quality and accessibility to these recording devices. So I'm sure most of you have spent time recording seizures on paper. And I can remember when we were doing this early on that we had a notebook that we would staple restaurant napkins to, and then we'd show up at our doctor's appointment with all of these different notebooks and pamphlets and say, well, here's Evan's seizure activity. And what we really wanted to do is figure out a way to record the seizures as they were happening and then give our doctors the best data they could to make the most informed decisions. So in 2010, the iPhone 4 came out. It was the first phone with a light. And at the time, our son was having nocturnal status seizures and his seizures were changing. So we really needed a way to record his seizures and share videos of his seizures with his doctor. So we built the only seizure recorder that exists now in mobile platforms. You can press 2 buttons and be timing and videotaping a seizure as it happens. And then within that, you can record rescue medications and venous magnet swipes. And all that data gets attached to your seizure event data at the time of the seizure being recorded. So we then moved into an Android app and now have a way that you can use Amazon Alexa to record your seizures by voice, hands-free. You can do that on any device that incorporates Alexa. And we're about to launch an upgrade to that skill that will include the rescue medication and VNS magnet swipe tools as well. And as far as accessibility, we thought it was a good idea to add in a mobile app or a mobile watch app into iOS. So this does everything the phone app does, but you can do it on your wrist. And the Alexa skill. So the whole idea that we we collect this data and we want to be able to share it was important to us. So, and share it in a meaningful way. So right away within Seizure Tracker, we built out a very robust reporting system that allows people to take their data, determine a length of data they want to share, and create these reports and customize the reports and share them easily from the website. So this is an example, and I apologize for the size, but it includes all of the data visualizations, and every piece of data that you enter into the website can be shared through these reports. They can be printed from the website or emailed, and they're dynamic. So a lot of people will use these and do what we call pre-reporting, where you can create a report for a 12-month period, share it using a web URL, a public URL with your care team, and then they can refer back to that report anytime during that 12-month period. So you can imagine that's really good in schools or even in managed care situations where you want to share a link maybe at the beginning of a year and then have them have access to that reporting throughout that time period. We also built out what we call the Valet Management system. You can have a basic user account, share a Valet key with a management account, and then they can get full access to your Seizure Tracker account. And each key can have its own access level choices assigned to it, and you're able to then give the permission to go into any tool you want within the system or revoke that permission too. And you have full control of enabling that access or pulling that access back using that Valet key. And just a list of all the tools that you're able to share with that system. And I want to kind of mention that as we came into developing this tool and becoming our role in the epilepsy community has shifted a lot from patient to sort of advocate, and then being able to develop relationships with other families within the community. And the Seizure Tracker community obviously has been growing for years. This is Rachel. She has Dupe 15Q. Paul and Ann Karsh have been using Seizure Tracker for years. I was hoping Ann could present next to me today, but they were unable to come to the conference. So I get the honor of sharing a short information about their story and their use of Seizure Tracker. They have Rachel's an adult now. She has a pretty robust care team, and Ann and Paul have been leveraging the Valet system pretty extensively for years. So the picture of Rachel surrounded by her care team, all of them have access to her Seizure Tracker account through the Valet system. And they can go in and record and review seizure activity through that system fairly easily. And Ann and Paul are able to manage that. The graph that we shared here is interesting. It illustrates when Rachel was actually not metabolizing one of her medications and having increased seizure activity. It came at a time point where the hospital she was at was switching their EHR system in 2018, and Ann and Paul had been collecting their data through Seizure Tracker. What was interesting was they were collecting all the blood levels at this point of those changes in Seizure Tracker. And when the institution switched from one version of their electronic health record to another, they lost that information. So they were not able to access the information in the same way anymore. So what Seizure Tracker does is empower us to take control of that data, own it long-term, and share it with whomever we want. Another way we are working towards sharing this data is our EHR integration. So we worked with a group of pediatric neurologists that are working on an epilepsy learning health system, and standardize some of the way that we are collecting and sharing seizure frequency data. So this is an image of the Seizure Tracker EHR dashboard, which goes into currently Epic right now, one of the largest EHR systems in the country. And we were able to take seizure tracker data directly, patient-reported seizure tracker data, standardize it in a way that we can port it right into the EHR and store it into the institution's electronic health record for you. And working with those clinicians, we were able to evaluate their clinical workflow and actually complement an existing clinical workflow instead of getting in the way of what that communication set is. So we're able to take your seizure tracker data, they're able to review it anytime with you there or not there, but you give them permission through MyChart to be able to review this data and then store it within your record. So as you can imagine, this is the largest database of patient-reported outcome in the world. So there's a huge interest by the research community. In 2014, we put a survey out to our user base asking if they wanted us to participate in research, and 95% of them said yes. So we took it as a mandate then to start creating tools to be able to share data directly from Seizure Tracker with interested research parties. So we have a bunch of projects going on now. These are some of the institutions that we were working with. We de-identify the data and unlink it from accounts, and Seizure Tracker users have the option to opt out of that pretty easily through their account settings in the system. What this has led to is this interest in understanding epilepsy and longitudinally what can happen through the natural history of epilepsy in specific groups. One of the more interesting aspects of this is, and of the research we've been doing, is seizure prediction and forecasting. So with that data, we can look at specific groups, hopefully take data from diaries and devices, move it into a process of where the patient manages also a diary, and then provide back some sort of forecast. So some of the research we've been doing with this and why it's so important to collect the data like we do, both for individuals, but as a population, we're able to use statistical models to build these analytic systems that can take individual diaries, compare them to populations, and then present back specific forecasting or risk states. So this is some work we were doing, or this is a result of some work that we were doing with a researcher at UCSF. We developed a statistical model that identified 4 common risk states in most people with epilepsy, and found that there were predictable transitions from one risk state to another. And what's cool is we have the capability to take this research, apply it into a web portal, and then present it back. And this is a model of what that might look like within the EHR dashboard. And then another real exciting avenue of research we're doing is using the Seizure Tracker data to develop artificial intelligent methodology to predict seizures or forecast seizure risk. So it takes population data and develops a model, and then takes individualized data and puts it into a computer, and they call this the black box theory, where it goes in and we don't really know what happens, but it spits out this potential forecast of when what your seizure risk might be. And we've actually published on this using Seizure Tracker data and had some fairly interesting results, and we're about to launch a study that will push out weekly reports to Seizure Tracker users that will take their data, analyze it using artificial intelligence, create forecasting reports, but only provide them retrospectively to users until we're confident that this is a valuable tool and we can deploy it responsibly. So keep an eye out for that study. It should, we should be announcing that in Seizure Tracker within a couple months. Another thing we did as far as this research initiative was this data sharing tool. So we have a way for other organizations to come to Seizure Tracker and link their database with Seizure Tracker data. So one example is with the Tuberous Sclerosis Alliance, where they have a natural history database, and they're able to come to Seizure Tracker, export patient-reported outcome data, and link it directly with their data within their own database. We also are able to, through Seizure Tracker, promote that study. But one thing we do within our Seizure Success and You portal is provide back population data into the a specific TSC page. So you can see down to the right and to the left in that page, you can actually come to Seizure Tracker, look at data of a population that is very similar to maybe your genetic cause. And having this data set also has allowed us to build data evaluation tools that let us look at specific populations, what therapies they're using, and look at the efficacy. So we actually launched Seizure Viz. It's in the pilot study right now, but it's a web portal that actually takes Seizure Tracker data, de-identifies it, generalizes it, and people are able to come to Seizure Viz and search by population, look what therapies are being used within that population and what impact those have on seizure control. And one of our more exciting efforts within Seizure Tracker right now is It's Not Just Seizures initiative. We know it's not just about the seizures and seizure count. It's about quality of life and understanding the other impacts that maybe the medications or seizures are having on lifestyle. So we have a quality of life initiative that's going on right now where we're developing a quality of life matrix, and we'll be able to rate that matrix by the population of folks within Seizure Tracker. So within a population, you might have specific quality of life issues you want to monitor more than other populations might, and we can provide those to you and to interact with and create reports on, and then share those reports and quality of life changes with your physicians. And XMark is another exciting tool we're building now where it's very similar to our daily variables tool, but you'll be able to, with a one button click, record specific issues like missed medications or bowel movement changes. Anything you want can go into your Seizure Tracker data visualizations with just a button press. So again, thank you all for letting me present this information. This is my son, Evan. He has a seizure alert dog. I think he's maybe 16 in this picture. We do advocate on Capitol Hill, and this was him playing his role in getting up and telling our congressman about tuberous sclerosis and hopefully the research that's going to help improve those people living with seizures. So thank you very much. That's a great question. So it's free for patients to come in and set up accounts. So you can come in and play with it. You can create an account and explore around, but just go to seizuretracker.com and there's a sign up option up in the upper right corner. And then if you go to iTunes or Google Play, you can definitely go in and just search Seizure Tracker and those apps will pop up as well. Thank you guys so much. This has been awesome.
I think we had one more question if you have time.
So I've had the app for a long time, but I really didn't realize there was the whole website that went along with it. So,
Yep.
And that's stupid of me, I guess. So I feel like I maybe am just missing out on all the data collection and like the app has been good for logging individual seizures and I've appreciated that. But then I never, so things like you said, medication management, keeping track of all that,
Yeah.
you can do it on the website.
Yeah, so when we built the apps, we wanted them to be standalone and you're able to go to the app and start recording right away. And then if you go into the settings, you can actually enter in a seizuretracker.com account and sync it directly up to the website. Videos and everything. So if you're collecting videos on the app, you can push them up. We actually moved, it used to be a YouTube interaction and now we store all the videos on our servers specifically. And you can push those up and then share them with your physicians and care team that way. Again, the apps were standalone, so that is not an auto sync. So you can go into the sync settings and hook it up directly, but definitely go to the website. The power of the reporting and the graphing and all of the surrounding therapies actually ports back into the charting that exists on the apps if you use them.
Okay. And how about for cluster seizures? I never knew how to record those on the app. Maybe on the website I can do that easier.
So there is, there are a couple ways to record clusters. We have a myoclonic clusters seizure type that's in there. We have an infantile spasm seizure type. There may be another one, but both of those I know allow you to do cluster counts and severities.
Oh, okay, because I never saw
Yeah.
that before.
Yeah, so if you scroll into the seizure types, you can go in and when you've selected a specific seizure type, there's a bar there that that allows you to tally the clusters. And we struggled a lot with that because the way we collect data, we put a timestamp and a length for every seizure event. And you really don't want to do that when you're doing clustering and things like that. So we struggled with a way to like measure the cluster with a timeline and then create that tally mark within that timeline. So hopefully it paints a picture of by allocating the seizure type and then the cluster count as well.
Thank you. I'm excited to look at the website and explore how that can be used. So.
Yeah, and the data, it's super cool because if you collect the data and then identify it with your specific genetic disorder, which you can in the profile, then it builds on the research capability of that data. And we have a really robust data share program that institutional researchers and advocacy groups can come in and for free get these de-identified exports from their specific population groups.
I have a question, a feature question.
Yep.
In the older version of the app, you were able to attach a video that you had already recorded.
Yep.
And attach it to a seizure event. This was the specific reason that I quit using the app 2 years ago, because you can't attach them. And when we're recording videos now, we have surveillance cameras inside and outside our house. And so then we just download them off of that server onto our device, but we can't get it into the app.
So you can, it's a little convoluted because we focused on that auto interaction. So you can go to the website, you record the seizure event in the website, and there's a manage videos link that's there. It was in the old site, but you might not have seen it. Right now, or the new version of it, actually, it's much more apparent how that interaction works. So you just go to the manage videos link once you've added the event, and it opens up a portal to push in those videos the same way you would upload a file from your computer. And then it'll show up in your app as well, just so you know. Cool, thank you.
Thank you so much.